Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All coming to you from the Santa Ana John Wayne Airport, traveling again. I actually was traveling to LA for a video that I'm going to show in just a couple of days, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, definitely do that so that you can catch that video. Anyway, I'll go to the ends of the world for all of you and to get some good content. But anyway, as I was leaving to go to the airport this morning, I caught this this video that Elon Musk had posted, Gorlin Rust, actually, or Gorklin Rust. Yeah, I don't know why he's got that name right now. I couldn't tell you that. Anyway, apologies for the background noise. I know that there's announcements and stuff going on. But anyway, Milan Kovac, who's the head of the Optimus team, anyway, responded to this video, and I'm going to actually walk through the video and talk about it more in just a second. But he said, more coming shortly, more about Optimus. The team has been working very hard in the background, entirely trained in simulation with reinforcement learning. That is a very, very big point, and we will talk about that a little bit more. Many optimizations and fixes have been put in place in our sim-to-real training code. The cable is there in case of a fall, not actually holding the bot, since this is an early result, which will get more stable very quickly. So anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and look at Elon's post here, which actually goes through the robot dancing. I am going to, actually, I'll play it back at full speed first, so we'll watch that. So here you go. You can see, I mean, very impressive, right? It's dancing on one foot, a lot of balance and everything going on. And I'll play it one more time at full speed, and then we're going to reduce this to quarter speed, and we will look at it kind of detail by detail. So clearly this new version of the bot, there's some significant differences, and also notice the two shoulders are obviously different generations of shoulders and everything. A little hard to tell what the hands are, what generation the hands are, but let's go ahead and change the playback speed to 0.25% and see if I can make this even a little bit bigger. So yeah, there we go. So okay, so we'll go ahead and play this, and we'll be able to watch him actually see the balance that's going on. You can see the foot kick and the upper body. That's very impressive, that second jump, because the body is actually unbalanced when it lands, and it kind of adjusts itself and makes up for it. Very, very impressive stuff. So anyway, and then I think that's it. Yeah, so anyway, we'll wait for it to recycle, and then I'm going to pause it in a couple of places. So the whole point of this is this. So you've got these unbalanced moments where it's clearly, completely off balance. And if you think about you as a human, you have to adjust the position of your legs, your arms, your upper body, your torso, all of that kind of stuff has to be positioned in order to keep you from just falling over when you do a move like this. And it clearly catches it and is able to do a jump with its foot. And this is a particularly impressive moment here, because when it lands, it's actually off balance. You can see very clearly that the foot is tipping it, well, this direction, whichever in the video. Anyway, but it's pulling itself off, so its center of mass is probably somewhere over here at the moment, and that center of mass will cause it to fall over, and so immediately it has to correct for that. So you can see it jumps, lands, it's off balance. It does have its arm kicking out there, but the foot kind of scrapes and picks itself back up again. So it's almost like it kicks itself up like that, right? And then it tips itself back over again, so it keeps from falling over. So this is very, very impressive movement that's going on. Then here again, it's more or less in balance, but probably the center of gravity is a little bit over this way at this point, which is of course correct, because a lot of this sort of dancing, or whatever you would call this, is falling just in a clever way to keep from actually falling down. So the center of mass is going to cause it to pull this direction over here as it comes out, and therefore it is able to rebalance itself as it moves there, and then kick again, and then kick again, and then we kick back to a normal stance where it's back to normal. So this is all very, very impressive. And again, I'll just go ahead and play it in slow motion again as I talk about this. This is all this is all very much about adjusting its balance in a highly dynamic situation. This, even a couple of years ago, this would have seemed basically impossible for a robot to learn how to do, because it requires coordination of every single piece, not the fingers obviously, but every major muscle, every major actuator in the body. It has to be adjusting all of those, because it's dynamically changing its center of gravity, and that center of gravity is pulling it all over the place because of the way it's throwing its legs and its arms and everything, its upper body around. So that it's just very impressive. This is the kind of thing that you can do in reinforcement learning that you really can't do in real life, because you would have to go through thousands of robots. They literally would get broken, they'd fall over and they would break and everything. So let's turn back to Elon's post here. So the team's been working very hard, entirely trained in simulation with reinforcement learning. So for those of you who don't know, the reinforcement learning is a way of basically, gravity is a really good reinforcement learning ideal, right? So you're like, do crazy movements. Maybe what you do is you show it something like this, or you're like, you give it an objective of kicking your legs in the air, moving in certain ways. And then the sort of reinforcement aspect of it is either in real life or simulation. Let's just take real life for a moment. Just like a toddler, if you've ever had a child, a little baby, that your child or somebody else's that you've been around, they will stand up, they'll fall down. They'll stand up, they'll fall down. They'll take a few steps, they'll fall down. They'll start to learn to run, they'll trip, they'll fall down. That kind of thing, that's reinforcement learning through reality. Gravity is reality, and the fact that you have a hard floor that you land on and it hurts makes you highly motivated to not fall on the floor. And therefore, that's how you basically learn how to stand up, how to walk, how to run, how to jump, how to dance. All of these things are reinforcement learning through reality. The difference here is that what they're able to do is essentially they could throw 1 million of these robots, virtualized robots, in a virtualized physics environment and have them all kind of do this, and you generationally pull out the best versions of this. You then use the neural networks that they are controlling. You use those as kind of the population of the next generation. You then allow them to work for a while. This is not necessarily exactly how Tesla's doing it, but this is a fairly traditional way of doing reinforcement learning. And so you pull the best, maybe 10 or 100 versions out of 1 million in one generation. You then use those as the seed for the next generation. So you duplicate them a bunch of times, potentially with some genetic alterations to the neural network, some randomization and stuff, and you throw them into this world over and over and over again. The big thing here is that you're able to train at much higher than real speeds, right? So real life speeds might be they might be like, it's 1-to-1, right? It's 1 second. 1 second of my real life is 1 second of real life. The difference is that they can run at much higher than real speeds. It could be 1,000 times real speed, and of course, as opposed to having to build 1,000 or 1 million robots in real life, you just replicate them. Once you've built the bot, and once you have the actuators, and once you have the physics engine, you just make as many copies as you want. So the issue is, the hard part about all of this is, number one, to build the physics engine, because if the physics engine is not perfect, it's going to cause, it just won't work because it's not close enough to reality for it to actually function. And then the second part is that within that physics engine, you have to build your robot, this Optimus, this virtual Optimus, has to be very close to the real Optimus. The actuators have to react the same way. They have to produce the same amount of power. They have to work at the same speed. All of that kind of stuff has to occur as close to the real Optimus as possible. That is all very difficult. So there's a lot of work to do this. Now, NVIDIA has their Isaac Sim, their physics simulator, and Jim Fan and others have worked on their group project to create a physics engine that is much closer to reality. I doubt that Tesla is doing this. I think they homebrew this themselves. But the whole difficulty of this is, how do you get a physics engine that is close enough to reality for it to be able to do this reinforcement learning effectively? So let's, a stupid thing, let's say that the friction of the real ground right here is 1 for whatever units, it's arbitrary. But let's say that in the virtual world it's like 0.95 or 1.05 or something like that. It's not quite right. That means that it's going to learn the wrong amount of friction that the feet have with the ground. And you might be like, well, that's stupid. You can easily model that kind of a thing, but remember that this is dynamic friction. This is whatever, the rubber or whatever is on the bottom of their feet. It's not straight, it's not trivial to model this kind of stuff. So you have to take that into account. And so the solution, number one, is to get as close as possible to modeling this for real. And then the second part of this solution, which seems to work very, very well, is to randomize the physics engine of the virtual world. So that's been a trick that people have learned recently. And what that means is that you can essentially take gravity. So let's say gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared, right? That's gravity. In the real world, what you can do is vary that just as one thing, that the gravity could be varied between 9.7 and 9.9, or maybe it's a little smaller than that. But you can vary gravity, you can vary friction, you can vary the speed at which the actuators work. All of that kind of stuff can be varied and randomized for every single simulation. So each one of the bots that's trying to do this is working in a slightly different version of reality. And the whole point is that you create kind of a bell curve of realities, and inside that bell curve, in the middle part of the bell curve, is the real world. So you don't have to hit it exactly, you just have to be close, and it has to be within the distribution of the reinforcement learning world. And if you get that, then you are able to model reality. And the question that I asked in response to Elon was, is this zero shot? I haven't heard back yet, but I'm assuming we're talking zero shot or very low shot. In other words, it's going straight from simulation to reality without having to do a lot of tweaking once it gets to reality. And the way you do that is, again, you capture reality inside that bell curve of the different simulated physics realities of the world. Now, in this world, it's hard surfaces. It's only really interacting with the ground and its own actuators and its physics, its center of mass and things. So, relatively straightforward. We can get to things like picking up cloth or soft bodies, like my shirt or something, or this backpack. All of those kind of things are much more complicated because they're soft bodies, but I'm sure that they're working on that as well. So anyway, it can go from relatively straightforward, where really you just have to model the ground, and the hard part with the reinforcement learning for the Optimus for this particular dance is modeling the actuators and the speed of them and the power and the torque and all of that kind of stuff as effectively as possible. The friction on the ground is relatively straightforward, and it really only has 2 points of contact. It's just as 2 feet. So that's all it really has to worry about. But it gives you the idea of how powerful reinforcement learning is, because the hard part is you have to model the world. Once you've got that modeled, then you can just turn loose millions of these things operating at 1,000 times real time, and you can train really fast, and you can produce, results that look like this, that are very, very impressive. And so I think it looks like this. Let's go to real time one more time here. So anyway, yeah, so I mean, look at that. That's really impressive. And there's a number of human beings that probably couldn't do that well. So it's very cool, very herky-jerky, but really amazing that it's able to maintain balance for that. And again, this is some pretty cool new stuff going on inside the bot, and it's moving much more quickly than the old versions. The old versions with linear actuators and stuff like that, I didn't think they could move this quickly. So this is very, very impressive stuff. So anyway, super amazing work by the Tesla team, as always. I just wanted to give them a shout out, and I wanted to go through this and why this is such a big, important moment. And it's nice to see Tesla Optimus doing something again that we haven't seen in quite a while from them. It's good to see them, making some videos and everything and coming back out versus all of the other companies. So congratulations to the Tesla team. This looked really amazing. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it, because that really helps out YouTube's algorithm. And of course, consider subscribing for more of this kind of content. I will be back in Athens very, very shortly, and then traveling again for a reunion up in Cleveland, Ohio. So busy week, but I wanted to get this video in real quick, and thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.